We got lights. What's up, nerds? My name is Corey Bergeron. You're watching Corey Bergeron Recordings, and we are back with a brand new video. And as you can see, we've got lights. We've got some paint on the ceiling. We've primed the walls, and in this video, I'm gonna give you an update on everything that I've done in this room. Home studio build, episode 3. In the last video, I took down the old ceiling fan, so it was time to replace it. The plan was to swap it out for a pot light. I wasn't exactly sure how much light a single pot light would give off, so I started with just one to test it out and see how it lit up the room. The existing hole was about 4 inches, but I decided to retrofit a 6-inch light I grabbed off Amazon. The first thing I did was kill the power at the breaker, then I traced out the template, scored the drywall with a utility knife, and then carefully cut drywall with a drywall knife, making sure I didn't hit any of the existing wiring in the ceiling. If you're doing this yourself, you probably want to wear safety glasses. Once the hole was cut, the wiring was pretty straightforward, black to black, white to white, ground to ground. I flipped the breaker back on to test it, and boom. This particular light even has a nightlight feature, which is pretty cool. After getting it wired up, I went to push the light back into the ceiling, and that's when I realized the hole wasn't quite big enough. And let me tell you, removing these lights is no joke. Those clips are way stronger than you think. Once they're in, it's a bit of a battle to get them out without damaging the ceiling, but eventually I wrestled it free, chipped away a little bit more at the drywall, and after a couple tries, I finally got it to fit snug in the ceiling. On the ceiling, you'll notice some green painter's tape. Now that I had one light installed, I decided to start mapping out where I thought the next light should go. Going through this process, I realized I really need to be able to visualize things before making a decision. Having the tape on the ceiling helped me picture the layout and get a better sense of the spacing. I decided it was time to prep the walls and ceiling for painting. I started by sanding all the walls, and then I wiped them down with a damp cloth, rinsing it often to keep it clean. It was time to prime the walls, so I got the necessary tools assembled and got to work, and I quickly realized that I don't like painting at all. It's been a while since I've painted anything. I thought maybe I would enjoy it this time, but no, I don't like it. I want the job to be done well. I just don't want to be the one doing the job. I did my best. I started by cutting around the outlets and around the trim, and then I eventually started rolling the primer on the walls, and then I cut around the ceiling and then primed the ceiling. After finishing the first coat of primer, the inspector stopped by.
Amazing.
The next morning, once everything had dried, I gave the walls and the ceiling a light sanding. There were a few drips and blobs from my sloppy priming, so sanding smoothed everything out. I then wiped off the dust, and then it was time for the second coat of primer. I don't know if you actually need 2 coats of primer, but I felt like it was the right call. Now for the fun part, installing more lights. I ordered 4 additional 4-inch pot lights, the same brand as the 6-inch light that I already have installed. The plan was to place the 2 lights on one side of the room and the other 2 on the other side, essentially creating an X-like pattern with the existing light in the middle. To make sure everything lined up, I borrowed a laser level from my dad. If you've ever worked in an older house, or really any house, you know that nothing is ever square or plumb, so the laser level was a lifesaver. I started marking the placement with painter's tape and Sharpie. At first I was thinking of putting the lights 24 inches off the wall, but since I'll eventually be hanging acoustic panels on the wall, I decided to push them out to 30 inches instead. That extra 6 inches of clearance made more sense for this layout. Once I locked in the design, I took the template that came with one of the lights, taped it to the ceiling, marked it with Sharpie, and then I took my utility knife, scored it, brought out the drywall knife, cut out the puck from the ceiling, and then had the wise idea of actually testing the light, doing a dry fit to make sure that it fit in the hole before moving on to the other holes, and it did fit. I essentially rinsed and repeat for the other 3 holes. The next task was to wire the lights, so I picked up a 20-meter roll of 14-2 Romex. It's essentially 3 14-gauge cables, a black, white, and a ground. I daisy-chained off the first light on the switch, feeding each new light in sequence. Running the cable through the ceiling wasn't too bad thanks to the strapping that was above the drywall. That gave me space to snake the wire through the ceiling to each hole without drilling through the joists. For the longer runs, I ended up taping the 14.2 to this tool that I normally use for unclogging my sink. Also worth noting that I obviously turned off the power before doing all this. After roughing in the wiring, it was time to actually install the lights. At each light, I stripped the wires back and connected black to black, white to white, ground to ground. The 6-inch light had these push connectors, which were really easy to work with, but these 4-inch lights only came with these short little wires, which were a bit of a pain to work with. I twisted the wires, taped them up with electrical tape, and then capped each connection, making sure that everything was solid before tucking the wires back in. Once all 4 of the additional lights were wired, I turned the breaker back on, and after that, it was time to seat the lights in the ceiling, and I turned on the light and took it all in. Yeah, I'm really happy with how it looks. I feel like the balance is just right. There's not too many lights, there's not too few. My plan is to eventually use lamps as a way to bring some vibe and moodiness to the space. I personally like to kind of work in a lower light environment, but I wanted to have the option of having these nice bright lights there for whenever I'm working or cleaning or moving gear around. There you go. We put some lights in, we primed the walls and the ceiling. Right now the ceiling's actually painted white. Looks way better after it's been painted, but I'll show you that in the next video. I have the paint picked out for the walls, so I will get to painting. I still have to figure out the floor. And after we do that, we're gonna be able to make some panels, start making this actually look like a studio space, which is cool and exciting. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
Oh, that's the end of it.